Everybody said Alabama recruiting would collapse after Nick Saban retired. But over the last few weeks, something changed. Elite prospects are rushing back to Tuscaloosa. Official visits are stacking up. And the national media, still sleeping on what's actually happening behind the scenes. There's one detail almost nobody is talking about yet. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this recruiting cycle suddenly feels very, very familiar. Before we dive deep, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Every single comment gets read. And stay until the end, because our special analyst from the newsroom will be here to break it all down. Now let's get into it. Because the story you're about to hear isn't just about recruiting rankings. It isn't just about star ratings and commitment announcements. What's really happening in Tuscaloosa right now runs much deeper than that. And honestly, the more you look at the details, the more you start to realize something uncomfortable. At least, if you're a fan of any other program in college football. Alabama may have never actually slowed down. Let that sit for a second. Because here's the thing. When Nick Saban retired, the narrative that spread across every major sports network, every recruiting analyst, every college football podcast was essentially the same. Alabama's best days were behind them. The machine was built around one man, and without him, the dynasty would slowly fade into the background, while programs like Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas took over. That narrative made sense on the surface. It really did. But surface-level analysis has a dangerous habit of missing what's actually happening underneath. And right now, underneath all the noise, something is building in Tuscaloosa that should make the rest of college football pay very close attention. Let's start at the beginning, because to understand where Alabama is right now, you have to understand what happened at the end of April. Alabama landed five-star quarterback Elijah Hayden. Now, at first glance, that might sound like just another big commitment. Alabama lands elite quarterbacks. That's nothing new. But what makes Hayden's commitment different, what makes it genuinely important, is not just the recruit himself. It's what elite quarterback commitments do to an entire recruiting class. Think about it for a moment. When a top-tier signal caller commits to a program, he doesn't just fill a position, he sends a message. He tells every receiver, every running back, every offensive weapon in the country, this is where the ball is going. This is where you go to get thrown to. This is where you go to get noticed by NFL scouts. This is where you go to win. Elite quarterbacks are magnets, always have been. And suddenly, in the weeks following Hayden's commitment, the temperature around Alabama's 2027 cycle started to change. Quietly at first, then more visibly. The kinds of recruits who had been leaning elsewhere started reconsidering. The kinds of conversations that were lukewarm started heating up. And official visit requests started coming in from some of the biggest names in the entire class. That is not a coincidence. That is the Elijah Hayden effect in real time. And here's where it gets even more interesting, because it's not just the offense that's suddenly becoming attractive to elite recruits. Alabama's defensive identity is shifting too, and that shift may be one of the most underreported storylines in all of college football right now. Under Kane Wommack, the Crimson Tide defense is starting to develop a personality again, not just a system, a personality, physical, aggressive, relentless. The kind of defense that NFL scouts travel to watch on a random Tuesday in October. The kind of defense that makes defensive backs, linebackers, and pass rushers say, I want to be a part of that. And recruits are noticing. That matters more than most fans realize. Because when elite defensive talent believes a program is the best place to develop for the NFL, everything accelerates. Recruiting conversations get shorter. Decision timelines shrink. Momentum builds on itself. Which brings us to the first name you absolutely need to know heading into official visit season. Kenneth Simon, four-star linebacker out of Brentwood, Tennessee, and Bama Nation, this one already feels very close. Now here is where this gets genuinely fascinating. Kenneth Simon is not just any linebacker prospect. His father played for Tennessee. Tennessee, one of Alabama's oldest, most passionate rivals in the SEC. And right now, Simon is trending heavily toward the Crimson Tide, despite intense pressure from the Volunteers, from Georgia, and from Ole Miss. Just think about what that means. This isn't Alabama recruiting from neutral territory. This is Alabama walking directly into enemy soil, building a relationship with a Tennessee legacy recruit, and potentially winning that battle in front of the entire country. If that happens, it isn't just a commitment, it's a statement, a loud one. At around 6'2", 210 pounds, Simon fits exactly what modern SEC defenses demand. Speed, versatility, instincts, the ability to cover ground sideline to sideline, the ability to drop into coverage and still make plays against the run. That is not a coincidence either. Alabama identified what they needed at linebacker and went and found the exact player who fits that description. Simon is expected to announce his decision soon, and right now, Alabama appears to be in the strongest position. But here's the question I want you to think about while we keep going. If Alabama steals a Tennessee legacy recruit early in this official visit season, what does that do to the momentum of the entire 2027 class? What does that signal to every other prospect watching from the outside? Hold that thought, because the answer becomes clearer as we keep going. Now let's talk about a name that hasn't gotten nearly enough national attention. Mitchell Turner, four-star defensive lineman out of Louisville, Mississippi. And this recruitment tells you something very important about how Kalen DeBoer and his staff are approaching this cycle differently. Alabama was reportedly the first Power 4 program to offer Mitchell Turner. Read that again. Not second, not third, first. Before the national recruiting services fully evaluated him. Before the major programs started piling in, Alabama identified him early, offered him early, and built a relationship before the rest of the country even caught on. Now Turner is ranked as the number 57 overall player in the country and the top defensive lineman in Mississippi. That is elite, nationally relevant talent, and Alabama may have already won the relationship battle simply by showing up first and showing genuine belief. Recruits remember who believed in them before anyone else did. That's not a cliche. That's one of the most consistent truths in college football recruiting. When a staff tells a young player, "We saw you before the rankings did," that message carries weight that no other program can easily overcome, no matter how many stars they wave around. Turner is scheduled to be in Tuscaloosa on May 29th. One of the biggest official visit weekends of the summer. Mississippi, Mississippi State, and Texas are all involved and fighting hard, but Alabama's early investment may prove impossible to overcome. And honestly, this is exactly the kind of recruitment that separates great programs from elite ones. Any staff can offer a 5-star after he's already being recruited by everyone. It takes a different level of evaluation to find a future difference maker before the world knows his name. That's what Alabama is doing right now with Mitchell Turner. Okay, let's shift gears, because the offensive side of this story is equally compelling. Actually, it might be even more important for the long-term future of this program. Nigel Newkirk, 4-star running back out of Gainesville, Georgia. And honestly, this recruitment could quietly become one of the most significant stories of this entire cycle when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Here's some context first. Alabama's rushing attack last season struggled. There's no sugarcoating that. The Crimson Tide needed more explosive, decisive running from the backfield. The kind of playmakers who can take a simple inside zone and turn it into a 20-yard gain. The kind of backs who stress defenses horizontally before hitting the hole vertically. Nigel Newkirk is exactly that kind of player. He is one of the fastest rising prospects in the entire 2027 class. And here's the part Alabama fans should absolutely love about this recruitment: the relationships. Newkirk already has strong connections with Xavier Griffin and Jamarian Matthews, both Alabama commits from the 2026 class. That level of peer-to-peer connection is something no coaching staff can manufacture. It either exists or it doesn't, and in this case it very clearly does. Now yes, LSU is involved, Ohio State is involved, Michigan is watching. These are serious programs with serious resources. But Alabama gets first crack at Newkirk with an official visit on May 29th. And if DeBoer's staff can combine the relational pull of current players with the offensive vision being built in Tuscaloosa, the pitch becomes extremely hard to turn down. Because this isn't just about playing for Alabama, it's about playing with a five-star quarterback. It's about being part of an offense that's evolving into something dangerous. It's about being seen by NFL scouts at one of the highest profile programs in the country. That's a different pitch than just waving championship trophies. And DeBoer's staff seems to understand that. Now let's get to the defensive backs, because this is where Alabama's reputation still commands serious national respect, and where the next layer of this story starts to reveal itself. Darius White, cornerback out of Georgia, currently listed as a 3-star prospect. And I know some of you are already raising an eyebrow at that. 3 stars when we're talking about Alabama competing for a championship. Here's why that thinking is dangerous. Star ratings are a snapshot. They capture what evaluators see at a specific moment in time based on limited exposure, high school film, and camp performances. What they cannot capture is ceiling, trajectory, the kind of player a young man becomes when he lands in the right system with elite coaching and elite competition every single day at practice. Alabama has turned 3-star defensive backs into first-round NFL draft picks before. Not once, multiple times. And the staff's early aggressive interest in Darius White suggests they see something in him that the recruiting services haven't fully priced into his ranking yet. White has visits scheduled with Tennessee, Georgia Tech, and Cincinnati. But right now, the signals are pointing toward Alabama. And if the coaching staff under Kane Wommack and Maurice Linguist continues to show the same level of attention that clearly attracted DeBoer's staff to him in the first place, this one could close quietly and quickly. Don't overlook this recruitment just because the star count looks modest. That instinct has burned a lot of fans before. Now, we've been building toward this moment since the beginning of this video, and here it is. 5-star cornerback Hayden Stepp out of Las Vegas, Nevada. This is the one. This is the name that changes the entire conversation around Alabama's 2027 class if it goes the right way. Stepp is not just a highly ranked recruit. He is a genuinely rare physical specimen at the cornerback position, nearly 6'4". Elite athleticism, the kind of frame that NFL evaluators circle on their boards before a player has taken a single college snap. Long, physical, instinctive, the exact profile that Kane Wommack and Maurice Linguist love to develop. Now think about this for a second. Alabama has built one of the most respected defensive back development programs in all of college football. The list of corners and safeties who walked through Tuscaloosa and left for the NFL is long, it is consistent, and it is not getting shorter. That track record is not invisible to elite recruits. Hayden Stepp knows exactly what Alabama does with defensive backs, and that may be the most powerful recruiting tool DeBoer's staff has in this specific battle. The competition here is absolutely fierce. Georgia, Oregon, Cal, all serious programs with serious defensive back histories of their own. This is not a recruitment Alabama walks into as a heavy favorite based on name alone. But Alabama gets the first official visit on May 29th. And first impressions during official visit season have a history of becoming final impressions. If Stepp walks into Tuscaloosa on May 29th and feels what so many elite recruits before him have felt, that specific combination of tradition, energy, ambition, and genuine belief in what's being built, this could turn fast. And if it does, a five-star cornerback of Stepp's caliber does not just fill a roster spot, he defines a class. He tells every other elite prospect in the country, Alabama is the place. Right now, in this moment, that's the weight this commitment would carry. Now, here is what I really want you to understand about this entire official visit weekend on May 29th, because this is the part of the story that the national media is almost entirely missing. When you have multiple elite prospects visiting a program simultaneously, Kenneth Simon, Mitchell Turner, Nigel Newkirk, and potentially Hayden Stepp, all in Tuscaloosa on the same weekend, something happens that doesn't show up in a recruiting database. Peer energy. These recruits talk to each other. They watch each other's reactions. They feel the same atmosphere at the same time and compare notes in real time. If one of them is visibly excited about what he's seeing, that excitement spreads. If multiple elite recruits leave Tuscaloosa in late May, all trending in the same direction, the momentum that follows can become almost impossible to stop. That has happened at Alabama before, multiple times. Under Nick Saban, official visit weekends were where classes got built in 48 hours. The infrastructure DeBoer inherited knows how to turn a great visit weekend into a signing class that shocks the country. And now the question becomes, is this that weekend? Is May 29th the moment where Alabama's 2027 class starts to stack? There's one more recruitment we haven't fully explored yet, and it might be the most important long-term storyline in this entire video. Maji Thompson, wide receiver out of Crest High School in North Carolina, currently rated as a 3-star recruit. And before you close that mental tab, let me give you his production numbers from the 2025 high school season. 53 catches, 865 receiving yards, 14 touchdowns. That is not 3-star production. That is a player whose ranking hasn't caught up with his performance yet. And Alabama's coaching staff clearly identified that disconnect early and decided to act on it aggressively. Wide receivers coach Derek Nix personally traveled to Crest High School in North Carolina to meet with Thompson. That is a significant investment of time and energy for a player who the recruiting services still haven't fully recognized. And it tells you everything about how Alabama is approaching this cycle. They are not waiting for the rankings to tell them who matters. They are making that evaluation themselves. Thompson has been openly enthusiastic about Alabama's pursuit. He's confirmed that the Crimson Tide have never taken their foot off the gas in this recruitment. He said the relationship feels real, and most importantly, he said that Alabama is sitting near the top of his list heading into the official visit process. Now here is what Derek Nix specifically told Thompson during their conversations. He praised his explosiveness, his ability to get in and out of breaks at full speed, his hands, his acceleration after the catch. And critically, he framed Thompson not just as a talented receiver, but as a perfect fit for the specific offensive system that Kalen DeBoer is building in Tuscaloosa. That matters, because fit conversations are different from talent conversations. When a coaching staff talks to a recruit purely about talent, they're essentially saying, "You're good enough for our program." When they talk about fit, they're saying something more specific and more powerful. They're saying, "We built something here, and you are exactly the piece that completes it." That's a harder pitch to walk away from. Thompson has official visits scheduled with Wake Forest, Duke, Michigan State, and Alabama. But he's already indicated the Crimson Tide are leading the race. His June 12th through 14th official visit to Tuscaloosa may be the decisive moment. And if Alabama delivers the kind of experience that has defined their recruiting visits for over a decade, the energy, the facilities, the genuine relationship with the coaching staff, a commitment could follow quickly. And if Thompson joins this class, and performs anything close to the ceiling Alabama's staff clearly sees in him. He becomes exactly the kind of player people look back on later and say, how was he ever just a 3-star? That's the sneaky big story of this cycle. Players who outperform their rankings in a system built perfectly for them are some of the most dangerous recruits in college football. Alabama has a long history of finding them, and right now they appear to be finding one again. Now let's zoom out, because all of this, Kenneth Simon, Mitchell Turner, Nigel Newkirk, Darius White, Hayden Stepp, Maji Thompson, it doesn't just exist in isolation. These are not random recruiting battles happening simultaneously by coincidence. They are the result of a deliberate strategic philosophy that DeBoer's staff has clearly adopted for this cycle: quality over quantity. Alabama is not chasing a massive class. They are chasing the right class. Players with specific traits, players who fit specific system requirements, players who project to specific developmental pathways that lead to NFL rosters and championship appearances. That is a different model than what most fans associate with Alabama recruiting. Under Saban, the approach was often to sign the best available players and let depth sort itself out. That model produced dynasty after dynasty. But DeBoer is not Saban, and he's not trying to be. What he's building is something adapted for a different era of college football, an era defined by the transfer portal, an era where a smaller, tighter class of purpose-built recruits may ultimately outperform a massive class of raw talent that never quite coheres as a unit. Targeting Mitchell Turner before the rankings caught up, pursuing Maji Thompson based on fit over stars, building peer relationships between Nigel Newkirk and current players in the 2026 class. These are not accidents. These are choices. And the result of those choices is a recruiting cycle that suddenly feels cohesive, purposeful, built around a vision rather than just a collection of stars. That is what championship programs do. And here is what the evidence is clearly showing right now. If Alabama closes on 3 or more of these targets during or shortly after the May 29th visit weekend, Kenneth Simon, Hayden Stepp, Nigel Newkirk, Maji Thompson, Darius White, Mitchell Turner, the national conversation changes overnight, not gradually, overnight, because the story will no longer be whether DeBoer can sustain what Saban built. The story will be that DeBoer is building something new, something that may be just as dangerous as what came before it, just in a different way. That is the version of Alabama the rest of college football should genuinely be concerned about. Not an Alabama trying to replicate the past. An Alabama that has figured out what the future looks like and is already executing, while everyone else is still debating whether the dynasty is over. And here is the final layer of this story. The national media's skepticism about post-Saban Alabama has not gone away. There are still analysts, still rival recruiting coordinators watching Tuscaloosa and waiting for the moment it finally cracks. Waiting for the cycle that falls apart. Waiting for proof that the dynasty really was one man. And every single cycle, they keep waiting. Back-to-back top 5 recruiting classes in 2025 and 2026. An elite quarterback commitment in late April. Official visit season loading up with some of the most coveted names in the 2027 cycle. Kane Wommack's defense trending upward. Derek Nix establishing himself as a genuine force on the recruiting trail. A philosophy shift towards system fit that may produce a roster more cohesive than anything built purely on star power. That is not a program in decline. That is a program quietly, methodically reminding everyone that it was never really down. The machine did not stop. It adapted. An adaptation in college football is infinitely more dangerous than repetition. And honestly, this may be the biggest sign yet that Alabama recruiting never actually slowed down. But now, let's bring in our commentator here in the newsroom, because there's another layer to this story that I think a lot of people nationally still aren't fully understanding. Take it away.
Yeah, and honestly, the deeper I look into this cycle, the harder it becomes to call this normal recruiting momentum. Because what's happening right now feels much bigger than a few visits or a few crystal ball predictions. I think what stands out to me most is the confidence coming out of Tuscaloosa. Not panic, not desperation after Saban, confidence. And recruits can feel that immediately. You can hear it in the way they talk about the staff, especially Derek Nix and Kane Wommack. The relationships feel aggressive, intentional, focused. And when Alabama starts combining elite quarterback momentum with defensive identity and peer recruiting all at the same time, historically, that's when things start escalating fast.
You mentioned confidence instead of panic. Why do you think that matters so much in this particular recruiting cycle?
Because recruits are incredibly sensitive to program energy. They notice uncertainty immediately. And what's interesting here is that Alabama doesn't feel like a program trying to survive transition anymore. It feels like a program that already adjusted internally and is now accelerating again. That changes how elite prospects view the future. Suddenly, committing to Alabama no longer feels risky to them. It feels strategic.
And that's interesting because you brought up acceleration there. But let me ask you this. Do you think the Elijah Haven commitment may have triggered more of this momentum behind the scenes than people realize?
Oh, absolutely. I think that commitment changed the emotional temperature of the entire class. Elite quarterbacks attract belief. Wide receivers notice. Running backs notice. Even defensive players notice because they start imagining championships again. And once that imagination starts spreading among recruits during official visit season, momentum becomes contagious. That's the dangerous part for the rest of college football.
And speaking of danger, after everything you just said about momentum becoming contagious, how important could this May 29th visit weekend actually become for the future of Alabama football?
I honestly think it could become one of the defining weekends of the DeBoer era so far. Because when multiple elite recruits visit together, it stops being individual recruiting and starts becoming group psychology. They feed off each other's reactions. One player gets excited, another starts imagining himself there too. And Alabama historically has been one of the best programs in America at turning those weekends into massive recruiting runs.
And after hearing all of that, here's the big question. Do you personally believe the national media is still underestimating how dangerous Alabama recruiting could become again over the next few months?
I really do, because I still think a lot of people are analyzing Alabama emotionally instead of strategically. They saw Nick Saban retire and assumed decline was automatic. But when you zoom out, the infrastructure never disappeared. The facilities didn't disappear. The NFL pipeline didn't disappear. The brand didn't disappear. And now the recruiting momentum may be returning faster than people expected. That's why this feels so important. It suddenly looks less like a rebuild and more like a reset.
Great insights as always. Really appreciate you joining us here in the newsroom today.
Absolutely. And honestly, I think the next few weeks are going to tell us a lot about where Alabama football is truly headed.
Now here is the question I want every single person watching this to answer in the comments right now. Which commitment do you think comes first? Kenneth Simon making a statement against his Tennessee legacy, Hayden Stepp choosing Tuscaloosa over Georgia and Oregon, Nigel Newkirk turning down Ohio State, or Maji Thompson becoming the sneaky big story of the entire 2027 class. Because honestly, any one of those commitments changes the narrative. And multiple of them happening in close succession. College football may not be ready for that conversation. Drop your answer in the comments. Tell us which recruit matters most. Tell us whether you believe this official visit season becomes the moment people look back on as the turning point of the DeBoer era. Because these discussions right here, this community thinking through what's actually happening versus what the national media is selling, this is where the real analysis happens. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Turn on notifications so you never miss a recruiting update, a breaking news story, or a moment that shifts the landscape of college football in real time. And share this video with every Alabama fan who needs to understand what is actually building in Tuscaloosa right now, because the next few weeks may be more important than any single game on the schedule. And when the commitments start rolling in, and based on everything we've broken down today, they very well might, you're going to want to already be here. Roll Tide, and we'll see you in the next one.